Welcome to tonight's virtual session. Just as an FYI, for those who just joined us, we're going to be recording tonight's main presentation for those who are unable to make it. And the breakout discussions will not be recorded, though we will be taking notes to ensure we capture your thoughts and feedback. So thanks so much for joining us. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Monica Haynes-Benketta. I'm the Public Involvement Coordinator, and I'm really excited to have everyone here joining us tonight. I'm joined this evening by staff from the Baltimore Metropolitan Council, as well as the consulting firms of ICF and PRR. BMC has been working with ICF and PRR on an important regional project to explore best practices from around the country to address equity, as well as identify some action steps that we can take in the Baltimore region to advance equity. So here's a brief overview of what we'll be doing this evening. After a quick icebreaker exercise, we're going to have a quick pop quiz review of some key concepts from the video we shared with you early last week. And if you didn't get a chance to view the video before our call, don't worry, you can access it from any time from the Transportation Corps member board. And that website's at publicinput.com/transportationcorps. So after the pop quiz, ICF is going to share a few highlights from the equity scan that they've been conducting with us over the past few months. Then we're going to be breaking into small groups to gather your ideas about the ways in which we can advance equity through regional transportation planning and decision making. After that, we'll reconvene towards the end of the hour to hear highlights from each of the groups. And we wanted to just reiterate that the Transportation Corps is an essential part of this conversation, and so we really look forward to hearing from you this evening. Now I'm going to turn it over to Hannah Twaddell and Haley Eggert of ICF to lead us through an icebreaker.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thanks to Baltimore Metro Council and the Regional Transportation Board for engaging us in this really fascinating project. It's you all are really leading the country in many, many ways when it comes to advancing equity through regional transportation. So I just want to take a minute to thank you again for volunteering to be part of this whole process of improving our transportation planning in this region. So the first activity we'd like to do in our discussion tonight is just to combine having people introduce themselves with a little practice session for the whiteboard tool that we're going to be using later on in our breakout sessions. You all have used a whiteboard already if you entered anything on the Jamboard on this group's internal member board. That's all it is. It's just like that. This one's made by a different company called Mural, but it does the same kind of thing. So what we're going to be doing is Haley, my colleague, is going to, she may have already pasted or dropped the link into the chat for our opening exercise. And so you can click or copy or paste that link in the chat to open it in a browser. I would recommend using either Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome if you have those. Hopefully it'll pop up and you'll see a little screen that says, do you want to enter? And you can just hit enter as a visitor. You don't have to type in your name. And then you should then see your screen open up with a little whiteboard that has some pink stickies on it that we will all be typing into in just a moment. So let me go ahead and see if, let's see, I'm going to stop my share for a moment and let Haley maybe open up yours with our mural board that everybody's logging into. And we'll stay on the Zoom call throughout the time, but we'll have an opportunity now to get a little quick tutorial on how this tool of Mural works, and then we'll get a chance to type in our names and introduce ourselves through the whiteboard. Haley, do you want to walk people through the tips on how to use this little tool?
Yes, and I also see someone in the chat said Safari, said the link is invalid. This, as you'll see on the screen, it works best in either Chrome or Edge. So if you do have Chrome or Edge, I would try it out there. That would be my best tip there. It should work if you have Chrome or Edge.
And if you're not able to use anything but Safari, feel free to just drop your comments, Michael, into the chat in Zoom. We'll keep track of it and we'll just enter them in for you on the whiteboard during our opening and during the breakouts later on.
Yes, so I'll just go over some quick tips and logistics before we get into the icebreaker. So what I'm doing now, you'll probably have noticed, is I'm using my facilitator superpowers to summon you all to where I am on the board, just to quickly go over some logistics for using Mural. So first, like I noted, it works best in Chrome or Edge. You should have all come in as its anonymous avatar that you have the option to put in your name if you want to, but it's not necessary. And then the biggest thing is to be able to figure out how to zoom in and out and move around the board. And so my tip here is in the bottom right hand corner, there's your navigation settings, and there's two different ways that you could enter the mural board. So trackpad mode, which is what I'm using because I'm using a trackpad on my laptop, or mouse mode, and it'll give you directions on how to move around the board based off of the mode that you're in. So for me in my trackpad mode, I pinch in and out to zoom in and out, and then use 2 fingers on my trackpad to move up and down and left and right across the board. And it'll be a similar thing with the mouse, but just slightly different. So that is, you'll get some practice moving around the board in just a second. And then again, if you have any problems or any technical issues with the mural board, just type into the Zoom chat and we'll help you out there. And with that, I've already turned off everybody's cursors, so you're not getting distracted by that. You should just see my cursor moving around the board. And with that, I'm going to move over to the icebreaker here. Looks like somebody's already filled it out. Perfect. So here, what you'll do I'll summon everybody over here now. You're going to fill out a sticky, so you double click into it, and then for the icebreaker, we're having you type in your name and whatever your favorite comfort food is. And I see somebody, when you double click on a white space, you create a sticky, so it looks like that's what somebody just did over there. And you can just either backspace and delete it, or feel free to type into that one, whoever created that.
Oh, everybody's doing great. This is going to make me really hungry.
And then also, as you're seeing people type in, once you're finished typing in your sticky, if you want to, on the right-hand side, you'll see these little stars, and you can go over and drag it over if you agree with somebody else's favorite comfort food as an emphasis. Because these will be pretty much the 2 things that we'll be doing in Mural throughout in the breakouts. So you'll be typing in and dragging stickies over, or dragging stars over.
Oh, veggie chili on a chilly night. Mm-hmm. Ooh, Glenn, crab cakes. Ooh, that's a true Baltimorean right there. Yeah. I'm just putting stars on everything. Haley, we have to make more stars.
I'm afraid this technical stuff is completely beyond me, completely. So I'm just going to have to watch.
You want to tell us what your food is and what your name is, and we'll type it
Yeah,
in?
my name is Art Cohen, and food, let's see. Spaghetti.
Spaghetti. Yum. Homemade red sauce?
Actually, pesto.
Oh, wow, double stars. My family,
I don't know
Yes.
how to get on this thing, so, I'll watch.
And
yeah.
you can enter Beth, and she likes anything chocolate.
Yum. I love it. All right, has everybody had a chance to either speak up with what they'd like to say or type in? It looks like we're pretty close, right? And you've had a chance to play with the stars. This is the only tech activity we'll be doing this evening. When we get into our breakout groups in a few minutes, you'll have a smaller number of people, which will probably make it easier to talk as well. And we'll be asking you to type various ideas about how to advance equity in this region into sticky notes just like this, and to vote for ideas or put stars on other people's ideas that you like. So when we come back in a few minutes to breakout groups, we'll be doing very much the same thing we just did right now. And you guys are absolutely expert already. I'm so impressed. So I'm going to come back to the Zoom meeting and reopen my screen, I think. Okay, so Haley, I think if you can stop sharing your screen, then I can reshare mine, I think, right? Oh, there it is. Okay. We all use so many different technologies since this pandemic started. I'm always finding a different way. Here we go. Okay. Thank you again for doing the icebreaker. That was pretty fun. And I think we'll have even more fun as we move forward. All right, next up, is everybody able to see my screen again with the agenda and the icebreaker that was done? And are we into the pop quiz now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, so I know a few of you got a chance before the call to take a look at this little video that Monica very gracefully put together. It has a lot of useful information on equity and what's happening these days in the realm of advancing equitable transportation outcomes across the nation. I've got a little pop quiz here that even if you didn't watch the video, you may well have a sense of what the answers might be. And maybe this will whet your appetite to go back and look at it after the call. So we've got 3 little questions. I'm going to just read out the question. It's multiple choice, A, B, C, D. And all you need to do is just type in the chat or just unmute yourself and say what you think the answer might be. So first question, according to the Leadership Council on Civil and Human Rights, providing equal access to transportation means providing all individuals living in the United States with an equal opportunity to what? The options are travel, A, B, go to college, C, buy a house, or D, succeed. So take a minute and drop your answer into the chat, or if that's difficult for you technologically, feel free to unmute and tell us what you think it is. Haley, what are we starting to see coming into the chat? I'm not looking
They
at
are
it.
unanimously voting for D.
Everybody's voting for D. You guys are too smart. It is. It is. Now, of course, all those other things tend to happen when you are able to succeed. But you're absolutely right. In this organization, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, one of the many, many that's working on equity, advancing equity, defines access to transportation that way, and that's the outcome we're looking for here. So we're widening opportunity, we're addressing poverty and unemployment and other equal opportunity goals, access to good schools and healthcare services. So this is one good way of defining equity and thinking about what kinds of outcomes we want to be achieving. Here's another way, question 2 on our pop quiz, of thinking about the way we define and describe what we believe equity means. This description definition is pulling from the executive order that the president signed pretty much on his first day in office, I think in January of 2021, that expanded the concept of the term equity and environmental justice quite a bit beyond the previous executive order that was signed in the 1990s to put forth the concept of environmental justice. So this executive order, as I said, expanded the groups of individuals and communities that might be experiencing consistent and systematic fairness, justice, impartial treatment. People who have been denied this kind of treatment belong and have a lot of different categories of people we're going to be trying to pay attention to. So the list has a long list. Which one of the following options is on that particular list? People who live in rural areas, that's option A. Don't have a safe walking route to school, that's option B. Option C, don't own a car, or option D, live in communities with no sidewalks. What are we seeing, Haley, in the people's answers?
Yeah, it looks like everybody is going with A, live in rural areas.
Man, you guys all did your homework. You're absolutely right. So although, again, all of those other options that were on the screen there could well be people that are experiencing that kind of systematic denial of justice and fairness and impartial treatment, this particular list in the executive order here and the quote that's on your screen shows you the very wide range of types of populations and people that our federal agencies, transportation agencies, and thus also our MPO here, are really being directed to pay attention to and to really think about when it comes to advancing more equitable outcomes with our transportation investments. So we've been really looking a lot at this in the last year or two, and a lot of the federal transportation funding that's coming out of this administration is also really requiring folks to think hard about all of these different kinds of populations and communities that are overburdened or underserved, or some of the other many ways we think about equity and equitable conditions and issues. Here's our last question on the pop quiz. This is some data from the National Complete Streets Coalition, the Dangerous by Design report. And in the last decade or so, sadly, the rate of being struck and killed by drivers for Black Americans was higher than the rate for white non-Hispanic Americans. By how much? Option A, 12%, option B, 32%, option C, 35%, or option D, 120%. What do people think the answer might be, Haley?
Looks like nobody's put in an answer in for this one yet, so maybe we're not sure. All right. we've
It's a
got one
math
response for
question,
B.
right?
So far, one response for B.
Yeah, for B, yeah.
We've got D, C, B again,
Mhm.
C.
Yep.
So I know a bit of an
Give me a
even
minute to
split
think
between
about
C
it.
and
Yes,
D.
this is over the last 10 years, just nationwide. So if you thought that it was option B, you were correct. It was not as good a scenario as option A or C, unfortunately, not quite as drastic as option D, but it was 82% higher if you were African-American over the last decade or so in terms of your chances of being struck and killed. Here's a little screenshot of one of the data pages that's in the video that Monica put together that just shares some of those highlights with you. Not only Black Americans, but for American Indians and Alaska Native people, the disparity climbs to more than 200%. Some of the other correlations between the likelihood of getting struck and killed have to do with the kind of income level of your neighborhood and the age. People age 50 and up, particularly people who are 75 and older, are really at high risk of being struck and killed by drivers. So these are just a few of the really interesting facts and perspectives that are in this video, and I do encourage you to take a look at it and give us some more thoughts, just what's triggering for you, just even from these few data pieces. But I'd like to move on now to ask my colleague Sherry Stein, who's been leading a lot of the research on this project over the last few months, about some of the findings we've had from this project that we've been working on together. So Sherry, do you want to start telling us about the scan?
Yes, thank you, Hannah. And it's a pleasure to be in front of a number of transportation enthusiasts, and I'm just so happy to be here tonight. Again, I'm Sherry Stein. I'm a senior transportation planner at ICF, and have been working with the team on this wonderful project. So on behalf of the Baltimore Transportation Board, BMC is identifying strategies to deepen their commitment to equity in 4 key areas. The first is the UPWP. The second is the Long Range Transportation Plan. Then there's the Transportation Improvement Program and the Public Participation Program. And you can see on this slide here, the bullets underneath, what each of these products are designed to do. Next slide, please. So we have started our process back in or probably the fall, late fall, early winter, and we have reviewed all of the products within the BRTB, and we've conducted the interviews with the BMC staff, and we've completed a white paper summarizing internal scan results as a result of that process. We have looked at peer MPOs across the country, a total of, I believe, 23, which 5 of which we have done one-on-one interviews with to talk about their products as it relates to the Baltimore Metropolitan Council's products. And we've learned quite a bit, and we created a white paper, which is taking a look at some of the best practices that these MPOs across the country have been involved in. We have discussed our results with the technical committee, and we are now at the point of creating preliminary recommendations for the technical committee and the policy board. And we are now fine-tuning those recommendations and implementation steps with the BMC staff, which is going to be taking place in the next 2 months. So a little bit about the findings. So if we're looking at the plans and studies that are taking place within BMC and the BRTB, we have seen that there are some studies around the undue burdens of transportation fares, fees, and fines on disadvantaged populations, conducting an equity scan, which is this project, and developing updates on equity emphasis area maps. So that's what we know so far that we are doing within BMC and BRTB. So as we move further, some of the equity scan ideas based on some of the plans and studies that we have been looking at, we have a shared definition of equity supported by goals and strategies to advance equity through MPO policies, practices, and activities. We've been seeing quite a bit of that across the country. Also conducting multimodal planning studies and with under-resourced communities, as well as developing maps and descriptions of projects in equity emphasis areas. Some of the findings under needs assessments within what we are currently doing at BMC BRTB is conducting quantitative environmental justice analysis of the long-range transportation plan and the TIP, creating a vulnerable populations index and creating databases and mapping related to destinations in the region to provide insight on barriers and access to opportunities. Some ideas under needs assessments based on our equity scan is to assess regional mobility, safety, as we just talked about, and environmental conditions in relation to different population groups, evaluating potential impacts on emerging technologies on different populations, and studying the effects of past transportation decisions on current inequities. Some of the scan findings around funding decisions. So in talking with the BMC staff and the BRTB activities, we have been developing the long-range transportation and TIP selection criteria that address equity-related concerns, analyzing the distribution of benefits and burdens, and including a TIP section on coordination with transportation services and human services. Funding decisions that we have found are using the MPO community-based transportation planning program to fund project recommendations and address mobility needs, conducting equity-related public outreach for the TIP, and allocating funds to build capacity of disinvested communities to develop funds and maintain transportation infrastructure. Under public participation, we are supporting community outreach through the Every Voice Counts program, developing and strengthening relationships with diverse groups in the region, such as the formation of the Transportation Corps, which we are happy to be before you, and evaluating current public outreach efforts to identify ways to make the process more equitable. Scan ideas under public participation is creating maps and databases to identify and track engagement, studying ways to expand opportunities for underrepresented populations, and working with our agency partners to leverage engagement in both the state and local initiatives in the city of Baltimore. Reconnecting communities is a great place to start, since the city and the region has received funding for that, particularly the Bridge to Nowhere. So I'm going to turn it back to Hannah on our breakouts.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Sherry. So we just wanted to sort of give you a few teasers, a few ideas there in our summary, very brief summary of some of the ways we've already started in this region, really advancing and committing to equity and equitable outcomes, and a few nuggets of ideas from the research we've been doing. And now we'd really like to turn it over and hear from you. Some of you all responded to this sort of fun little exercise we had that was along with the video, that just said, if you could imagine a headline 20 years from now that said we had just accomplished something fantastic in the region, what would it be? And this is a little combination of some of the feedback we got from people on that. Here's an imaginary headline for Sunday, April 23rd, 20 years from now. City leaders are flocking to Baltimore because we've been able to announce the accomplishment of a critical milestone. We are now achieving sustainable, equitable mobility for every resident of the region. What a wonderful, wonderful vision. It just makes me feel good just to even look at that and think about it. There's so many really laudable goals we could set like this for the long term. But the way to get there would be to work on it every single day. So if we were going to reach long-term equity milestones like this, something like this, we would want to be advancing the equity ideas and principles through all the things that the agency does. So the kinds of plans and studies we invest in, local and regional, the way we identify transportation needs using our analysis tools and using our qualitative public input like this focus group. The way we make decisions about funding through the long range plan and through the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, and through the public participation activities we do. These are really kind of the core things, pun intended, that the agency has to work with here as resources for advancing equity every day. And so what we would like to do is, in a moment, we will use our Zoom magical powers to, you'll see on your screen an invitation to join one of the 3 breakout rooms. We'll have myself and Sherry and Tracy facilitating in each of us in each room. And we would ask you to, again, just click on that mural link. It's a new board. It's a different board than the one we used for the icebreaker. Enter in, and then you'll see a board that looks sort of like this. It'll be organized vertically instead of horizontally, but it basically gets these 4 categories we were just talking about of plans and studies, needs assessments, funding decisions, public participation, just categories of the kinds of work we do here. And we want to collect up some of your ideas about how you think this region might be able to advance equity towards equity milestones in any of these categories of activities. The mural board you'll be looking at also has a little space for sort of a catch-all where you can add ideas that sort of don't seem to fit in any of these categories. So let me go ahead and ask Haley to drop or go ahead and invite us to our breakout rooms, and our facilitators will take it from there. We'll reconvene in about 20 minutes, I guess about 15 minutes now. So we'll just have a little time for brainstorming through the mural board, and then we can follow up with you and keep collecting ideas after the meeting. All right. Look, we're all back. The magic of Zoom. The magic of Zoom. It's been, thank you all so much. You all have done a lot of technology hopping in the last 50 minutes. So I'm proud of everybody for hanging in there between using Zoom and video call and using Mural to start gathering ideas. I really appreciate it. And this is just the start of gathering these ideas. So we're going to be leaving these mural boards that are very similar to the jam boards you filled out before. We'll leave them open for you to keep adding ideas, and we'll also encourage you to share ideas anytime by email with Monica and the staff. But let me just, I'll take an example here. I'm going to share, let's see. Ella, can you share your screen with the results of our group? Just so I can touch through it. Oh, you're fantastic. Thank you. Because I've lost track of where it is. So it took us a few minutes to get going, and then we really had some cool ideas. If you'll scroll down to the needs assessment category, we had several really interesting concepts, particularly around when we were just talking about when we were breaking out at the end, of just a very practical idea of having paratransit services that are coordinated across counties. It's remarkably logistically difficult right now to do that. And this is one of those ideas that, if you'll scroll down a little bit further, Ella, could be an example in the sort of funding decisions area. We were talking about figuring out ways to fund things that could give tangible results fairly quickly. You know, maybe in a year, maybe 5 years, something that would be a quick win or a low-hanging fruit that encourages people, because the level of discouragement and skepticism is so high in the region from big and small decisions that have been made over the years. We also got a lot of really great input on public participation ideas, particularly with really thinking hard about the lives of the people that we're trying to reach and making it easy for them to participate and going to where they are. And then keeping them motivated with real results. And then finally looking down at the other categories list, I didn't know we had. Just having communications and messaging really be focused and improved. So I think our group really thought simultaneously about both the trauma and the feelings that people have in this region, and that's kind of a barrier to getting the energy going, and that we can use some of our funding decisions and programs to help address that while also making tangible changes. Sherry, do you want to share with us real quick? You can stop sharing your screen, Ella, and Sherry can give us a real quick report out of what she heard from her group.
Yeah, sure. Haley, do you want to pull up our mural board there?
Wonderful.
All right. So under plans and studies, we had a really interesting mix of ideas and folks voting on different things that they liked. We have everything from expanding the Washington, D.C. metro up to Laurel to looking at emerging technologies and green solutions, which kind of related back to one of the recommendations that are examples that was discussed in the presentation. Also looking at transit-oriented development that's affordable, okay? And also assessing how to increase public transit corridors where traffic is most congested. And then considering reviving the Red Line out to West Baltimore. And then under needs assessments, again, this connection to land use and transportation with housing, perhaps doing some and affordable housing as well, looking at some maybe some needs assessments around that, conducting a survey on the transportation needs of the underserved community, considering ways to integrate communities that are not part of traditionally part of these kinds of conversations, and finding creative ways to engage those audiences. And then the question, if they build it, will they use it? Funding decisions, consider funding from local developers to put into improvements on transportation projects, holding developers accountable for genuine contributions to public transit projects, and looking for non-property tax sources of funding were among some of the ideas there. Then under public participation, make sure less digital citizens have a voice versus techies only. Engage local level organizations such as nonprofits and community groups, which I do know that has been taking place. And then part of Westmore's call to service could be in the transportation sector, compensating public participation organizations, which we did see a lot of that in some of the interviews that we have had, as well as the MPO scans. There is apparently a funding mismatch and modes of outreach, digital versus boots on the ground. So we had some stars there. Other activities encourage younger folks to utilize public transportation, ask college students to provide research on equity-related transportation issues, great
Mhm.
opportunity for schools like Morgan State that has a transportation program, and also the disability community. E-bikes, are more affordable than battery cars and have massive marginal transportation gains. So these are some of the things that our group talked about.
Oh,
and
you all were really productive. I am impressed, Sherry. Great
Oh,
work.
of course.
Definitely some crossover with some of the ideas we had. Tracy, do you want to give us a rundown of some of the things you heard? You're on mute.
Sorry, absolutely.
Mhm.
Apologies. Lauren, do you want to bring up our mural, or I can do it for you if you need me to? Perfect. So underneath our plans and studies banner, our comments were work with local and state agencies as emerging technologies are implemented to ensure they are equitable. We also have, for plans to be equitable, the people who need equity need to be a part of the discussion. Nothing about us without us.
Mm.
Ensure underserved communities are not unfairly negatively impacted by climate change and environmental impact. And finally, work with the neighborhood associations, which BMC has already started doing in maintaining their tracking list. Next slide. Okay, needs assessment. What we heard was too many tools seem to have built-in bias towards private vehicles. Also have tools need to be modified to include more diverse groups. And finally, make equity tools more accessible. Next group, under funding decisions, develop a formal process for prioritizing transportation investments in historically redline areas of Baltimore City. And that would also extend to any other areas in the region. Funding that advances equity needs not be derailed by louder majority voices. And target funding to marginalized communities. Last block, Lauren. Thank you. Public participation. Develop relationships with neighborhood and community associations to make the public comment process more accessible. Consider accessibility for special groups. What are transportation options currently? Promoting to a wide cross-section of the population. Make information available at transit locations. Using more varied tools to reach underserved communities. And finally, doing more than just social media to include some of the new traditional communication tools. I want to thank our group for their participation and all of their great ideas.
Thank you.
Anna, back
so
to you.
much. That's fantastic. And I know you all are noticing it. I certainly am. There's a lot of cross-pollination as well as a lot of really unique ideas that have been shared in a remarkably short amount of time. Thank you so much for making such a productive use of this hour. We will, as I said, continue to keep these mural boards available for you on your member board, and we would encourage you to keep adding ideas. Let us know when you do. And Monica and the staff will keep you updated on what's happening with this equity scan as we move forward. Monica, can I ask you to wrap this up? Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks. Sorry about that. I'm just blown away by how much amazing feedback was gathered tonight, and I definitely look forward to working with the consultant team to figure out a way to consolidate the boards and share them out so that people can add their additional ideas. Folks who haven't been able to join us tonight could add their ideas and join the conversation and add their stars to the mix. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening, and this has been a really great discussion. For more information, you can reach out to our staff. I am the primary point of contact. The way you can easily reach me is through email at transportationcorps@publicinput.com. That'll go to an email address that I see and other members of staff also can see. So we'll get your message to everybody on staff and share it with the consultant team. We really do hope, though, that this is just a start of the discussion. I know that it was a lot of information shared, and a lot of discussion in a short amount of time. So we definitely would encourage people to visit publicinput.com/transportation core. We have an equity tab set up on the core page, so you can add your additional comments to the discussion. Once we process this video recording, we'll add a recording of this video to that page. And again, there's also a video on the different on equity and environmental justice and the various disparities that people are experiencing. And it's about a 20-minute video, and I encourage you to watch that if you can. You can add comments to that as well. And I just want to thank everyone for being a really valuable member of the Transportation Corps. We really hope you found the discussion helpful, and we definitely look forward to continuing to collaborate with you. So thanks again for joining us tonight, and I will share a link to the website where you can go in the future. And I appreciate you working with us.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.